Dollar, that's what I need. And if I share with you my story, would you share your dollar with me? Bad times are coming, and I reap what I
Eviction moratorium. Eviction moratoriums that never end. Eviction moratorium for Mama Earth to truly liberate her from her paper dollar worth. Eviction moratoriums can be transforming. Together we can tell a different story for the mom and pop landlord class who've been told and sold the lie of buying Mama Earth with cash. Support them with resources so they can pay their occupied land tax. How about a moratorium on the selling of Mama Earth? The end of seeing her for how many paper dollars she is worth. Nah, most of us can't function in the increasingly unjust hamster wheel, forcing us to steal, hustling change and looking for the Walmart deal, closing brick and mortar jobs every second of every day, roboting and AIing our paychecks away. So how about the billionaire class who makes cash on our broken backs, support permanent, safe housing that forever lasts? How about all the next door haters who don't want to see our homelessness support us to live without the lie of rent? You say you want to end the homeless problem, politrickster? Then don't end the eviction moratorium, securing safe housing forever for us with no end. This podcast from a povertySkola goes out to all my relatives facing homelessness across occupied Turtle Island because of the ends of this little reprieve we got from the lie of rent. The politricksters call it the eviction moratorium. Guess what? It ain't a crematorium. It was a different story. My 5-year-old son came home from school one day and saw the notice first. $700. Rent increase effective July 1st. It was a pink sheet of paper with black lettering taped to the front of our rented house. We called it Mama House in the Mission. That's the Mission District of Frisco, occupied Linamu, for those of you who don't know. I had launched Mama House as a safe house for me and other houseless, no-income single mamas and children because we could support each other with child care, resources, and love. My son was too young to understand what that notice meant, but knew that something was wrong. I sat down and cried. It was already too much. My loca vida with eviction came back to me as I tracked the impending end of the eviction moratorium in all the cities that still had post-pandemic moratoriums in place. Cities like Oakland and Frisco, who are expecting literally thousands of people to be added to the already thousands of us houseless people already in these cities, already being swept like we are trash, already being criminalized for our houseless bodies. My relatives at Poor Magazine, our researchers, that's poor people-led research, our youth poverty scholars, and our mama scholars, all of us decided that we needed to launch a research about this eviction moratorium. Since the eviction moratorium went in the unincorporated parts of Alameda-County, over 243 new evictions have just become into the court. That's 243 new evictees who just became officially houseless in Alameda County on April 29th of this year. To lift up this terrifying situation, our youth leaders, our mama leaders, launched the We Search, and we are doing it now. Many of our youth already know that they need to make all the housing rent-free like we do at Houseless, because rent and eviction is what makes us poor people houseless. How about that? As someone who's experienced being homeless, I side with continuing with the eviction moratorium, meaning putting a freeze on all evictions so it can allow people to stay in their homes and at least help not escalate the numbers of people houseless in the streets. Said by Zion Angeles, Youth PovertySkola reporter with Poor Magazine. All these settler towns across the United States are racing to file papers in eviction court as fast as they can. Eviction filings are up more than 50% in most of these settler towns. And the cities struggling the worst with post-moratorium evictions are Houston, Minneapolis, Nashville, Phoenix, and Rhode Island. And to prove the buying and selling of Mama Earth greed has no limit, the rent prices nationwide are up 5% from a year ago, above 30.5% in 2019. Another researcher reporter told us, I'm on the street now because of the eviction moratorium being lifted in Alameda-County. The store I was working at is closed. I'm 67 years old and disabled. Who's going to hire me? And no, my SSI doesn't cover rent. I've been on the Bay Area Community Services, that's BACS for those of you who don't know that nonprofit here, wait list for over a year. And I'm tired, he concluded by shaking his head. Carol Fife, who's thrown down so many times for all of us at Houseless and Wood Street Commons, is trying to put in something to help the tenants. It's implementing a rent registry. It's called the Rent Adjustment Program, so that there isn't these lies that these sleazy landlords like to tell us, so that a lot of us just leave without even fighting. I believe that the eviction moratorium should continue, and that when it eventually ends, there needs to be a solid plan of action to make sure the rent buildup doesn't immediately evict everyone who couldn't pay. From tiny-gray-garcia, formerly Houseless Youth PovertySkola reporter with Poor Magazine. As the child of a disabled mom, I had already struggled with paying rent and staying housed for more of my life than I care to even talk about. Living houselessly, sleeping in doorways and shelters for over 10 years. And then when my mama got sick with what took her to the other side, and I had my infant son, we were houseless again. And finally, poisoned by mold, with my partner and my son, we ended up on the street again. And that was right before we moved to Houseless, for without whom there would be no roof over my houseless body's head. Yeah, Mama House was eventually destroyed. I say Mama House was killed by capitalism. But it was killed by an eviction, causing all us poor mamas and children to be houseless again. We didn't recover from that eviction, because you know what? You never really do. We lost Sister Beautiful Warrior Lori McElroy in the process, because poverty and homelessness kills. After many more years, we launched Houseless and are working right now with Sustainable Economies Law Center and Segorte Land Trust to implement the land liberation legislation, a dream I dedicate to all my fellow poor mamas and elders who have died trying to stay inside on these occupied streets. Land liberators, conscious, just transitionists, and legislators, not legislators. How about we consider keeping these moratoriums on indefinitely? This capitalist system encourages the lie of rent, buying and selling of colonized Mama Earth, and keeps us engaged in this lie by forcing us all to do the same. To break this violent cycle and remove ourselves from the idea of stolen land as a commodity, let's keep those moratoriums. Let's keep them forever. Join Houseless, formerly Houseless Youth and Family Poverty Scholars from Poor Magazine, Wood Street Commons, Moms for Housing, and more as we release our research findings at Oakland City Hall this coming Thursday, July 13th at 2 p.m. in Oscar Grant Plaza, 14th and Broadway in Oakland, occupied Uchin.
Well, let me tell you something. All that glitters ain't gold. Hey, hey. It's been a long old troublesome road. And I'm looking for somebody come and help me carry this load. I need a dollar, that's what I need. Hey, hey. Well, I need a dollar, that's what I need. Well, I don't know if I'm walking on something.